Hello everyone, this is Dr. Madhusudan Rao on the program I teach medical students. Today I briefly touch on third cranial nerve, the oculomotor nerve. Oculomotor nerve is a purely motor nerve, a paired cranial nerve that supplies all the extraocular muscles except the superior oblique and the lateral rectus. It also supplies the levator palpebra superioris and the pupillary constrictors. Let us look into the diagrammatic representation of the midbrain at the level of superior colliculus, where the nucleus of the third cranial nerve is located. The nucleus of the third cranial nerve has got two parts. One is the main motor nucleus and the other is the accessory parasympathetic nucleus. From the main motor nucleus, the nerve courses downwards in company with the fibers of the Edinger-Westphal nucleus, runs downwards in close proximity to the red nucleus and exit ventrally at the lower margin of the midbrain, close to the midline. Well, ultimately it enters the lateral wall of the cavernous sinus, where it is related to the fourth and sixth cranial nerves. Exit from the superior orbital fissure to supply the extraocular muscles. To repeat, oculomotor nerve is the third cranial nerve, controls the action of all extraocular muscles except superior oblique and lateral rectus. It also supplies levator palpebra superioris and also pupillary constrictors for light reflex and accommodation reflex. Well, where is its nucleus located? It is in the midbrain, ventral to the aqueduct of Sylvius, at the level of superior colliculus. Well, when it is taking its course downwards, it is joined by sympathetic fibers. Together with the fibers of the Edinger-Westphal nucleus, it courses through the interpeduncular fossa, the red nucleus, and finally through cavernous sinus, enters the orbit through superior orbital fissure. So this is how the oculomotor nerve arises at the level of the superior colliculus, at its nucleus. Well, look into the various lesions of the oculomotor nerve. Before that, well, we already touched the nucleus of third nerve, which I told you there is main motor as well as accessory parasympathetic, located in the tectum of the midbrain at the level of superior colliculus. The nucleus has two components, as we mentioned earlier, the main motor and accessory parasympathetic. Main motor cranial nucleus, through its axons, innervate all the extraocular muscles except the superior oblique and the lateral rectus. And the Edinger-Westphal nucleus supply pupillary constrictors and ciliary muscles. This is a brief note on the anatomical considerations of the oculomotor nerve. Before we go to the clinical considerations, let us know about its blood supply. Well, it is the branches of the basilar artery. Okay, at its upper part of the basilar artery, rather, yes. Basilar artery is formed by the joining of two vertebral arteries at the lower margin of the pons. It runs in the midline of the pons and divides into posterior cerebral arteries at the upper border of the pons. So, the upper part of the basilar artery, before it terminates into superior cerebral arteries, it gives away branches to the lower part of the midbrain, and posterior cerebral artery gives away the penetrating branches which will supply the most part of the midbrain together with the paramedian branches of the basilar artery. So, the midbrain is supplied by the paramedian branches of the upper basilar artery and also the penetrating branches of the posterior cerebral arteries. Okay, lesions in this part of the branches of the basilar artery and the superior cerebral artery will result in the ischemic injury to the midbrain, thereby resulting in the various clinical situations described as we are going to touch upon now. Well, how does this third nerve is affected? The injury to third nerve could be due to infarction due to ischemia, due to the involvement of the vascular supply from the branches of the basilar as well as the superior cerebral artery, as I mentioned earlier, or the compression by the aneurysm of the posterior communicating artery. What is the posterior communicating artery? It is the artery that connects the superior cerebral artery with the internal carotid artery. That is a part of the circle of Willis. That is lateral border of the circle of Willis. Well, after this brief note on the anatomy and blood supply, with regard to the clinical syndromes due to the lesion of the lesions in the midbrain, there is one such syndrome is Weber syndrome. Weber syndrome is due to the lesion in the midbrain at the superior collicular level associated with third nerve injury and the ischemic injury to crus cerebri, thereby resulting in contralateral spastic hemiplegia and the ipsilateral third nerve palsy. Okay, this is also described as medial midbrain syndrome. We'll come to this. Medial midbrain syndrome is also described as Weber syndrome. So on the side of this is because of the involvement of the branches of the upper basilar and proximal posterior cerebral arteries. On the side of the lesion you will find the eye being deviated down and out due to unopposed action of trochlear and abscent nerves. Then on the opposite side of the body there is paralysis of the face and arms and leg. That is because of the involvement of the corticobulbar and the corticospinal tracts in the crus cerebri. Then lateral midbrain syndrome is also described as Benedict's syndrome. It is due to the involvement of the penetrating arteries arising mainly from the posterior cerebral artery. This is a little more extensive lesion involving the fibers of the third nerve besides the red nucleus and the substantia nigra, thereby resulting in tremor, hyperkinesia, and hemiataxia. So this is in brief about the third nerve, third nerve and its origin in the midbrain and exiting from the midbrain ventrally, that entering into the lateral cavernous sinus, lateral wall of the cavernous sinus, ultimately exiting from the superior orbital fissure and supplying all the extraocular muscles except lateral rectus and the superior oblique. Here is the to mention about the again recap about the Weber syndrome and the Bendix syndrome. So this is the diagrammatic representation of the lesion. The infarct involving the there is red nucleus and the crus cerebri. This is the lesion that is described under lateral midbrain syndrome or Bendix syndrome, which results in the is ipsilateral third nerve palsy, contralateral hemiplegia, along with the red nucleus and the medial lemniscus involvement. Well, this is in brief, my dear students, about the third nerve lesions. And thank you very much for patient listening. We'll meet you again in the next class. Until that time, bye bye. See you later.